Now Allah says Shahru Ramadan, the month of Ramadan. This is the next ayah. This is the only ayah actually about the fasting of Ramadan in the Quran. This is the one. الَّذِي أُنزِلَ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنِ. Now listen, I told you, when people think of Ramadan, what's the first thing that comes in their head? Iftar, pakode, samosa, make sure you have enough ketchup in the house, You go extra shopping for all the sodas and all things. Muslims usually, they don't lose weight in Ramadan, we gain weight in Ramadan. Right? That's our practice. Even fasting. When you think of Ramadan, the first thing you think of is fasting. If you don't think of the food, at least you think of fasting. Or you say, man, Ramadan this year is coming in the summer. Oh, this is going to be hard. That's the thought that goes in your head. Allah says in the Quran, the first thing you should think about when you hear the word Ramadan, Shahru Ramadan, alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. Not alladhi kutiba fihi al-siyam. Alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. The month in which Quran came down. Ramadan, the month in which the Quran came down. The thing that makes Ramadan special is not the fasting. The thing that makes Ramadan special is the Quran. That is Allah telling us. That is Allah telling us. Now you have to ask yourself, if you are fasting in Ramadan but you don't recite any Quran, you're fasting in Ramadan but you didn't memorize not even one page, the whole 30 days, not even half a page, not even 2 ayahs. You didn't memorize anything in Quran, from the Quran. Then how do you understand what Allah is saying? The entire purpose of Ramadan is to celebrate the Quran. I told you the first thing you need for a nation is a capital. What's the new capital? Kaaba. The second thing you need for a nation is a constitution. What's the constitution? Quran. And when the constitution is written and passed, then every nation celebrates. Every nation that has a constitution has a constitution day. The day on which their constitution was implemented. They have that day. Okay? Our constitution is celebrated, it was revealed in the month of Ramadan. Allah didn't give us one day to celebrate. He gave us 30 days to celebrate the coming of the Quran. This is, the month of Ramadan is the celebration of the fact that Allah made us an ummah. Now we have our own capital, and we have our own constitution, and we have our own days of fasting. No longer the same as the days of the Jews. No more ayyam ma'dudat. Now it's Shahr Ramadan. They did not have Shahr Ramadan. So Allah distinguished us from the previous nation now completely. Now it's done. Now if you want to consider yourself, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, you got to change the direction you pray, and you got to change the days you fast. You don't have the option. Before they were told, وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. They were told you can make ruku' with those who make ruku', and they might not have had a problem with that. Why? Because it's still in the same direction, but now it's changed. It's gone now. By the way, on a side note, recently I made friends with a rabbi back in Texas. And he's a research scholar in Judaic studies. And I talked to him about Musa alayhi salam and other things. We talk about other. So I asked him one day, when you guys pray, do you have ruku'? The Quran says about the Jews, وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. He didn't say وَاسْجُدُوا مَعَ السَّاجِدِينَ صَلُّوا مَعَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. He says وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. So I said, how come Allah said that to the Jews? Let me ask if you have ruku'. I know they have sajda, they have ruku'. They said we have some ruku'. We do it once a year. We used to have it all the time. And I said, do you have sujood? And he said, yeah, we did have sajda. We did put our head on the ground. But we have a prayer now in which we complain about how we don't do it anymore. Ya salam. Okay. That's their, I didn't make this up. He told me this. There's a rabbi telling me this stuff. So they lost the sajda and they have something from the ruku' left. So Allah told them, وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. And He also told me in their prayer actually, the final part is ruku'. That the ruku' comes after and the sajda comes before for their prayer. Right? If they do make sajda, they make it first and they make ruku' later. And when Allah was talking to Maryam salamun alayha, He said, وَاسْجُدِي وَارْكَعِي. Right? He told her make sajda, make ruku', because in their sharia, sajda came first and ruku' came second. So it's appropriate to the ayah. But anyway, coming back to our subject in the month of Ramadan. Shahru Ramadan, alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. Then He says, هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ. This part of the ayah is a slap in the face. He says, Quran is guidance for all people. This ayah is not just to the Muslims, it's also to the Jewish community of Medina. They believe that when wahi comes, it comes for who? Just themselves. It's just themselves. Allah says, no, you are not going to this time. This wahi is not just for you. It is for all people. Hudan lin-nas. He didn't even say Hudan lil-Arab, Hudan li Bani Israel, Hudan li Bani Ismail, Hudan li Bani Ibrahim. No. Hudan lin-nas. This is guidance for all people. This is one of the most beautiful things about our religion, folks. It is one of the most beautiful things about our religion. I don't care if you go into a masjid in America or Australia or the Khalij or Pakistan, if there are multiple nationalities standing in one row, you don't make a distinction. The rich people should be in the first row. Middle class should be in the second row. The janitor should be in the third row. Nope. Everybody stands in the same row. And it could be that the boss and the worker are standing together. And it could be that the worker is in the first row and the boss is in the last row. That could be too. It could be that the guy who works for you is leading prayer and you're praying behind him. That could be too. Allah made this guidance for all people. You know what that means? He made all human beings equal. Just by Quran, by the institution of salat. We cannot be racist because we have salat. We cannot be supremacist. We cannot think my nation is better than your nation. My nationality is better than your nationality. My language is better than your language. My skin color is better than your skin color. My village is better than your village. We can't do it. And you know when we are reminded that we can't do that? When we stand together in salat. When Bilal radiallahu anhu is standing next to Uthman radiallahu anhu, we are reminded that we're equal. This is hudan lin-nas. That's what that means. You know why I'm highlighting that? Because I notice it in Muslims. I notice asabiyya in Muslims. I notice Muslims make fun of other nationalities, look down on them, talk bad about them, talk bad about people that speak a different language. The Arabi makes fun of the non-Arabi. The Bangladeshi makes fun of the Pakistani makes fun of the Indian. The Filipino makes fun of the Malaysian. What's going on here? Don't we make salat? Because if we're not learning from our salat, if we're not learning from this Quran, then it's like I tell you, we're just a shell. You know, if you have a shell and you don't have any egg inside, that's what our Islam is sometimes. It's just you look like Muslim, you say the words that Muslims say, but inside your heart, there's no love for your deen. Every one of us here that are sitting in this audience, so many different countries are sitting in this audience right now. It's such an international gathering right here. This is a United Nations meeting right now. You know? Let me tell you, I don't know your name. Some of you know my name. I don't know your name. But you know what? We have a relationship with each other that is thicker than blood. It is thicker than blood just because of La ilaha illallah. Just because of that. This Quran binds us together. And this was told to the Jews. You know why? Because the Jews believed they were special. Everybody else is second class. We're first class. Everybody else is Gentiles. We're the chosen nation. Allah says anybody can become people of Quran. Hudan lin-nas. Open invitation to humanity. That eradicates racism, nationalism, tribalism, egotism. It gets rid of these things. Subhanallah. What an amazing religion. It's such an incredible thing. Even in America, I can tell you, there are black churches. There are Spanish churches. There are Greek churches, even of the same denomination. And then in the heart of Brooklyn, you're going to have, in New York, in Brooklyn, you'll have different churches, different ethnicities. You walk into the masjid, it's an international conference again. All the same ethnicity standing together. They don't even speak each other's language, but they're praying together. The same Quran unifies us. Because when we stand in salat, what are we listening to? It's Quran. Hudan lin-nas. وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى. And there are multiple proofs, clear evidences for guidance. Allah took, this ayah was supposed to be about Ramadan. لِأَنَّهَا بَدَأَتْ بِكَلِمَةِ شَهْرُ رَمَضَان. The ayah began with Shahru Ramadan. But so far he says Quran came down in it. It's a guidance for people. It's got multiple proofs from the guidance, meaning the guidance itself has miracles. That if you look at them, you will know this can only be the word of Allah. بَيِّنَاتٍ مِّنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ. And it distinguishes between right and wrong. All of this up until now, Allah didn't say anything about Ramadan. What's He only talking about? Quran. More than half this ayah is about Quran. Why is He doing that? Because He wants to make sure no Muslim ever forgets that Ramadan is about the Quran. Ramadan is about the Quran. It's about the miracle of this book. I told you I made friends with who? A rabbi, huh? Let me tell you a fun story about the rabbi. So rabbis, of course, which prophet do they love the most? Musa alayhi salam. So we talk about Musa alayhi salam. He and I, we talk about Musa alayhi salam. We disagree on everything. But we talk about Musa alayhi salam. And I don't talk to him to insult him. I want to understand his position. I would really like to know about Bani Israel from Bani Israel. I would really like to know, because Quran talks to them so much. Ya Bani Israel, Ya Bani Israel. It talks about their prophets so much, they became our prophets. So much. So I want to know what you guys think. So we talk about Musa alayhi salam. And one time I told him, one of the great miracles of the Quran, if you don't know, is the name Musa. The name Musa. I said, so what does Musa mean? And they don't say Musa in Hebrew, they say Mushe. So Tauratu Musa, they say Taurat Mushe. That's how they pronounce it. So I said, what does Mushe mean? The word mu for them is similar to the Arabic word ma. What does ma mean? Water. Musa is the one from water. That to them, the one from water. Okay. Now the thing of it is, that means that the word Musa is Hebrew. The word Musa is Hebrew. I told him the word Musa is not Hebrew. It cannot be Hebrew. And he says, why not? Musa alayhi salam is from Bani Israel. He's Hebrew. I was like, listen, where was he born? He tells me Egypt. When he was a baby, where did he end up? Where did he end up? In the castle of Fir'aun. Who was in charge of him? Fir'aun. Asiyah radiallahu anha. And then the mother came as a servant. So when there's a newborn baby, who will name him? The people in charge or the servant? The people in charge. And the people in charge will name him in the language of the slaves. If they're going to raise him as a prince, they will raise him as a prince, yes? They should name him in the language of the slaves or the language of the master. The language of the master. And the language of the master is Egyptian, it's not Hebrew. His name is Egyptian, his name is not Hebrew. But the problem with Egyptian is that the Egyptian language died. The Egyptian language was already dead 3,000 years when Rasulullah came sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nobody knew the Egyptian language. So if somebody asked at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what does Musa mean? Nobody could tell you. Why not? Because the Egyptian language was already dead. We live in fortunate times. We live in times where because of Egyptology, the Egyptian language was revived and translated. The hieroglyphics and the phonetics of the Egyptian language have now been translated. So now we can go back to Egyptian and find out what means Musa means. But before I tell you what it means, let me tell you an ayah from the Quran. Musa alayhi salam came into the castle. His mother, his foster mother, the queen, picked him up. She took him to Fir'aun and she said, she said to him, عَسَىٰ أَن يَدْفَعَنَا أَوْ نَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا. Maybe he could benefit us, or we could take him as a newborn. We could take him as what? A newborn. A newborn. The word Musa in Hebrew, in Egyptian means newborn. The word Musa in Egyptian means what? Newborn. She came to Fir'aun and said, maybe we could take him as a newborn. Maybe we could take him as a Musa. Quran translated Musa alayhi salam's name into waladan. The Quran knows the Egyptian language even when it's dead. Even when it's dead. Quran translates it accurately. She must have called him Musa, because Musa in Egyptian is newborn. And Quran says we should take him as a newborn. We should, وَنَتَّخِذَهُ وَلَدًا. Subhanallah. Like, you people don't have what we have. I disagree with him on everything. And that's part of our identity. We have to disagree on our Kaaba, on our days of fasting, on our prophets, all of it. All of it.